So welcome in part 2 code, and today we are going to do our episode number 18, and we will going to talk about the asynchronous Apex. And in that we will going to cover about feature method and queueable methods. So my name is Amit Chaudhary. I'm a Salesforce MVP and the founder of the Salesforce Apex R. And you can follow me on the Twitter Amit_SFDC or ApexRs. So today agenda is like we will going to talk about what is the asynchronous Apex and why we need asynchronous Apex and what is the different way of asynchronous Apex and what is the use of feature method and queueable job and what is the difference between both of them and how we can implement that. So we have some housekeeping rules. So keep your mic on mute and we will give you last 15 minutes. If you have any question, you can feel free to post your question on the chat window or in the last 15 minutes, I will try to answer them. So let's talk about what is asynchronous Apex. So we know there are two things in the Apex. One is synchronous, another one is asynchronous. So synchronous one is like if I have a two process A and process B. So from the process one, if I will call the process two, then the process A will be wait until I will get the response from the process B. And A process will be stopped and it will not perform any action. But in the asynchronous process, if I'm doing one process, in that scenario, I need to do some action, then I can call that particular process B, but I don't need to wait for getting the response for that, and I can continually working for that. And once I will get the response, it will be done. So why I should use the asynchronous Apex? So sometime take an example, we have the Apex call out. So in the Apex call out, it will be take some time to calculation to integrate with another system. It will take some time. In that particular time, we need to wait and to get the response. But in the meantime, with the help of the asynchronous Apex, I can do some other activity, and whenever I will get the response, I can display that. And let me talk about why asynchronous Apex is helpful. So for that, like it provide you higher governor limits. So that is the very first advantage of asynchronous Apex. And another one is like when we used to work in Apex classes, like this is like very common issue, mixed EML error. So which used to come. So in that, to avoid that particular issue, we can use the feature method to avoid it. And if suppose we have some long running job and we know like it will be run, and the processing of this method will be take like 1 minute and 2 minutes, in that particular scenario I don't want to keep my user wait and I want to do some other activity at that time. For that particular time I can use the asynchronous Apex. And there is another use case, like if I need to make a call out from the trigger, then what I can do. As we know, we cannot do that call out from the trigger because trigger is the synchronous activity. And in that if I need, so take an example, if I'm getting an account and I need to take the state and city of a particular account, and based on that I need to generate one Google map. For that I need to make a call out into the Google Map API to get the longitude and longitude to display the map. In that particular scenario I don't want my like, I cannot do that activity like call out from the trigger because Salesforce does not allow us. So in that particular scenario I can use the asynchronous job, and whatever I need to do in trigger I will do, and I will make a future call out from the trigger, and that will be execute in separate context, and whenever it will be done it will be update the account record. So in that kind of scenario I can use the asynchronous Apex. So let's talk about, I told you like higher governor limit, what that mean. So in the asynchronous Apex we will get the higher governor limit. So in the synchronous, like if I want to do any SOQL, then we have a limit of 100, but in the asynchronous the limit will be increased to 200. Similarly, heap size will be increased from 6 MB to 12 MB, and the maximum CPU time is also increased from this to 60. So 60,000 millisecond. So like that, we will get the higher governor limits for the asynchronous job. And now we know the advantage of asynchronous job, but the question is that how many way we can implement a asynchronous job. So we have a different way to implement that. Very first thing is the future method, and another one is the queuable apex job, and the batch job, and schedulable apex. And apart from that, we also have the conditional integration. So that word also we can use. So we will talk about these two today, future method and queuable, and the batch job and scheduler one we will cover in our next session. So let's talk about when I should use the future method. So future method is like, it's very useful when we need to make a call out to the external web services. So that what if you need to make a call out from the trigger, we can use the future method. And the second example is the mixed DML error. So let's me talk about what is the mixed DML error. So if you want to perform some action on setup and non-setup object, in that scenario, if you perform the both action together, then your code will get the mixed DML error. So for an example, let me show you one class. So I just created one class here. I just created one class called mixedml feature demo. In that, I'm just getting another method called show mixed DML error. So first of all, I'm just creating one account record here. So, and after that, what I'm trying to do, I just want to try to create a user record. So account is your non-setup object and user is your setup object. So now what I want to do, after creating the user record, I need to create after creating the account record, I need to create one user record with the user role. In that particular scenario, I simply query the standard profile, and then I'm just querying that role, and that particular role and everything I'm assigning the user, and I'm simply trying to insert this particular record. So let's see what will be happen if I will execute this particular code. So there might be requirement in the community. It's a very common scenario where we need to create the account, then we need to create the contact, and then user and that then I need to create another user record, and the user I need to set the lookup of the contact. So this kind of scenario is very common. So if you need to do that, and that scenario, it makes DML error will become. So let me show you what that means. So let me execute this particular code. So I'm just executing this particular method. So this is my class name. This is the static method, and I'm just trying to call this particular method. So let me click on execute and see what our error message is coming. It's a mixed DML operation, and you cannot do the operation on the setup object and non-setup object together. So how to avoid this kind of issue? So best answer is the future method. To let's see how we can avoid it and how to create a future method. So before doing that, so there is a two scenario. One is the mixed DML one, another one is the future call out from the trigger. So this is the example we have, but let me show you. But before creating a future method, we also have some limitation. So I'm going to show you how we can create a future method. So what we can do, we can create an account record over here, and whatever the user record we need to create, that's what I can move into the future method. So that this particular code will be create account synchronously, and a user record, it will be create asynchronously. Whenever it will be get the time, it will be execute. So let's see how I can create the future method. So if you want to create a future method, we have an annotation called @future. And apart from that, we also have some limitation with the future method saying that the method should be static. So let's try to save a method without making it static. So if you see, it is giving me error saying that future method must be declared as a static. So if you are putting this future annotation over here to create any method as a future, then it should be static. So let me create a static method. and save this one. So you can see now issue is resolved, but we also have some more limitation with the feature method. Like you cannot pass a user object directly here. If I thought I will do everything here and I will pass the user object directly in this. So if you try to save this, and it will be give you error saying that feature method does not support parameter type as user. It means you cannot pass the S object as a parameter into the feature method. It's only support primitive data types and collection of the primitive data types. So primitive data types means a string, integer, and all. And you can also pass the list set of that particular thing, and you can also pass the ID. So that all you can pass, but you cannot pass the S object into the feature method. So let's see how we can do this, we can resolve this issue. So simply what I will do, I will simply move this particular code from there to here. And I can call this particular method from here. So now what I'm doing, if you see, I just move all the user creation code from the upper method to the future method, and I put it over here, and I'm simply calling create user method from there here. So now what it will be do, it will be create the account record, and after that it will be create the user record asynchronously. So let me save this code and try to execute the same thing, and let's see it will be execute or will give me error. So now you can see my code is executing, and this time it does not give me a mixed DML error. So now this is executed. The problem is here, I am not able to monitor it because it does not return any job ID once I schedule it. So it is asynchronous job. I don't know when it will be complete. So if you want to track this activity, you can click on, go to the setup menu, and from this, just under the job, click on the Apex job, and under the Apex job, you can see your job is completed or not. So now you can see just now I schedule one future method, and that is completed. And what is the name of that method? Method name is the create user. So that is executed, but to monitor, the monitoring is for the future method is one of the pin. You cannot directly monitor it, but yeah, this is one of the reliable method. So you can do it. And let's see user is created or not. So go to the user, click on the user, and now you can see this user is created over here. So this is the use of the feature method. And if I also told you, like if you need to make any call out for future call out from the trigger, then what you need to do, you can create a method as a future. And if you want to do a call out, then what you need to do, create a method, a future method, and pass here call out equal to true. And once you mark the call out equal to true, then you can do the HTTP call out or REST call, any call out from this particular method. So make sure you need, if you want to do the call out, you need to mark call out equal to true. So this is the example of our feature method. And now here's some consideration we have. One, the methods, future methods should be static, and we cannot pass the as object here. And another issue is that if you observe, like we cannot monitor this particular method. So we have some limitation over here, and to overcome this particular limitation, we have a queueable method in Salesforce. So let's see what is the queueable method. So before to that, let's talk about feature method and queueable jobs. So we already talked about feature method is easy to implement and only accept primitive type argument like integer, string, and the collection of the primitive. And it cannot chain. What do you mean by chaining of the feature method? It means suppose I have two feature method, it doesn't mean I can call one feature method from the another feature method. So you cannot call one feature method from the another feature method. So that is another limitation, and it is hard to monitor. So because it does not give you any ID back, so you cannot monitor it easily. And to overcome this issue, we have a queueable job that's called in that, like you need to create a Apex class. In that Apex class, you need to implement that queueable interface and need to create one implement one method. And then it also support the S object. So that is the limitation of the feature method, but it support. And from the queueable, chaining is also available. So from the one queueable method, you can call another queueable method, and you can also monitor queueable job. Now question is that if queueable have all this functionality, then why I need to learn about feature method? Because I know feature method is useful, but it's have some limitations, and to overcome this limitation, we have a queueable job. Then why I should learn about feature method? Because feature method is easy to implement. You don't need to write a separate class. It's like you don't need to worry a lot about uh, what I say, test classes. But if you if you use the queueable job, you need to write more code for the testing. And if you schedule the chaining, then that's another pain for writing the test class for the queueable job. So this is really easy one, but yeah, it is little bit complex and you need to create a separate class for it. But here you can see in my situation, I simply create the method in the same class, but for the queueable, you need to create a separate class. And in that separate class, you definitely, if you create a class, you need to write some test method. Definitely you also need to create for feature method, but for this like dedicated test class you will create, and you will validate the result and here and there. So both have their own advantage and disadvantage based on the business requirement and challenges we can implement. Suppose we need a requirement to call if asynchronous apex from another asynchronous apex, then you can go with the queueable job, but only one time is required, you can go with the feature method. So based on the requirement, I can select the one appropriate one. So let's see the demo. And here, so suppose I have a requirement, I have some record and I want to set part2 code account as a parent record for couple of records. So just in case, like I have Acme record, so I want, okay, the part2 code should be set as a parent record for this particular account, and all the account record which start with the Acme. So I want to do that, and for that also I can also create a queueable job. Let's see how we can do it. So I already created one queueable job over here. In that, what I did, I created a class called queueable demo. In that, you just need to make a class as a queueable, you need to implement a queueable interface. So I just implement the queueable interface over here, and then I say like I need to pass list of H object. So let's see how we can do it in this example. So here I just created a list of account which I need to update and the parent ID of that account. So I want, okay, all the account which start with the Acme and want to set the part2 code as a parent account. So this particular account I want as a parent one. So where is this one? So I want to set this as a parent. So I need to pass this ID and the list of account which name is Acme. So what I did here, I created the list over here and the parent account. And after creating this particular class, what I did, I simply passed the created a constructor, and in the constructor, I'm going to pass all the parameter. So queueable is the interface class. Then it means we have a couple of methods which we need to implement. So here is the one method in the queueable interface which you need to implement. If you will not implement, it will give you error. So I just implemented that method. So method is public void execute, and whatever the logic you want to write and you want to execute that particular code asynchronously, that's what you can write here. So simply I just pass the account. So I just write a for loop over here, and whatever the parent ID I set, I'm just setting that parent ID over here. And at the end of that, I'm just updating the list, and so that it will be update this parent record. Now, question is that how I will execute this. So I just let me save this method. So if you want to execute the queueable method, we have a method called system.enqueueJob. So if you want to execute the queueable class, you need to use this particular method. In that particular method, you just need to pass the class object. So I just created a class called queueable demo. You just need to pass the object of that. So let me execute this particular code. So this is my class. Let me go back to the anonymous window and open this, and let me paste my code. So what I'm doing over here, I'm just simply copying all the account which name start with Acme, and I'm just putting the list over here, and then I'm just fetching the part to code account and putting that ID into the parent ID. And now I have one constructor. In that, I need to pass the list of account which I need to update, and the ID which is the parent ID. So what I'm doing over here, I just get a list and the account. And now what I'm doing, I'm just passing both of them here in the constructor. And then after setting the constructor, I'm just passing the same object into the queueable job. So now here you can see in this particular class, I'm able to pass as object by the constructor. So that is the disadvantage in future method, because I cannot pass the as object, but here I can do it. So let me execute this code, and to execute your code, you just need to call system.enqueueJob method and need to pass the object of this particular class. And once you will execute this particular method, it will be return you the job ID. So job ID means like whatever the, when it will be execute, it will be return the job ID. So let me click on the execute. So I just executed my code, and it should update my record. Yep, it's done. So let me refresh this, and you can see it's just updated my parent record as the part code, and and just execute it. And if you want to monitor it, it will be return you the job ID, and this of job ID you can track, okay, this is completed or not. So let me see where you can also track. Just simply go to the job, and under the Apex job, you can track your queueable job method. So it say, okay, your queueable job is submitted on this particular time, and the type is queueable. Here also, like future method will also come here, and it's say completed, and what is the class name. So it's give you all the detail. But in the future method, when I was calling the future method, it was not returning the job ID. But here when I'm calling the queueable method, it's written the job ID. So just in case, if you want to see your job is completed, you can make another query on the cron jobs, and from this, like, you can make an asynchronous Apex job, and whatever the ID you get from this particular object, you can query it. It will give like numbers of error, what is the status and what is the ID. So whatever the detail you are able to see here, it will be give the detail, okay, how many batches are executed, it is failure or completed. So you can execute your query with this ID, and you can do it. So here you can see, this is the advantage of the queueable job. You can pass the S object. It's also provide the job ID so that you can monitor it. Now, the one another point which we talk about here, you can also do the chaining. What do you mean by chaining? So suppose I have another requirement. Okay, I need to update all this account, and after that I need to do some Apex call out, and then I want to do, then once the parent will be updated. So in that particular scenario, what you can do, once this is completed, you can do you can call another queueable job from here. So this is my first job, whatever action I need to do. And suppose if you have another class called queueable demo, and you can call that particular class directly from here. Let's say queueable, what is the name of the class you can pass. I did not create another queueable class, but yeah, you can just call like that. So just call your another class, okay, queueable, and class just pass your another queueable job, and whatever the logic you write. So what will be happen, it first it will be execute. Once it will be complete, it will be schedule another queueable job. So like that you can do the chaining. So that is the advantage of your queueable job, which you cannot do in feature method. Okay, so now let's talk about the test classes, how I can write the test class for this. So first of all, if you want to do the test classes for this, then you need to use the start method and the stop method. So once the stop method will be execute, all the asynchronous activity will be called as synchronously in the test class, and then you can validate your code. What I mean to say, if you want to write the test class, whatever you want to write it down, then type test.startTest, then call your suppose if you want to call the same class, you can call your same class in the test method like this, and just type the test dot stop test. And after that, if you'll try to validate your record detail here, like parent record is set or not, you will not able to get your result because this job is asynchronous. It will be not, you will not get the result immediately here. To write validate your asset, you need to go here, and here only you need to add the system.asset. And then after once this test dot stop test will be execute, all the asynchronous activity will be execute as a synchronously. So here you can add system dot assert whatever you want to add. So like that you can do it. So this is the advantage, like that you need to write the test class for even for the feature method and the queueable method. The effort will be same. You just need to validate your result after stop test method. Okay. So that is pretty much like done from my side, and I just cover all the point whatever I have for especially this. I know like in the Apex method, we also have two more things. One is the patch job and another one is the scheduler. And that particular two topic we will going to cover in our next section. Anybody have any question or any doubt? So So there is a question, can you clarify the reason for the mixed EML error in the first example, please? Yeah, so basically what happens, the Salesforce have a two type of object. One is the setup, another one is the non-setup. So non-setup is like your account contact, this is non-setup and all those custom objects. And setup is something on that Salesforce used to manage your security and reason. So if you know, I created one account user record. In that, I was passing the roles. So here to avoid the security reasons and all, like because Salesforce used to calculate the sharing rule and everything for that particular user, they don't want, okay, you will mix it out something and it will break the security. So that's why Salesforce do not allow setup and non-setup together. Can you make the call out from the queueable? Yes, you can do that. There is any other question? And I hope I was able to explain you the mixed DML error, because the user is the one based on that security will be executed. So any other question? Okay. So we also have the in our next session we will going to cover about the batch job. So right now we talk about the small scenario, how to do it. Like I said, like couple of record you want to do, you want to get some extra like a limitation and or higher limits and all. For that we can do it. And just in case, imagine if we have uh, more records, like I need to archive some record, or I need to perform some activity over the night, or you want to schedule something on a particular time period. For that particular time for things, we can also use the batch job and scheduler class, and that topic we will cover in our next session. So if you have any doubt, question, feel free to post your question on the chat window. I will try to answer them. Okay, so that's it from my side for today, and we are pretty much done our agenda, and 30 minutes is fine enough for today's session. Okay, everyone, thank you for the joining, and don't forget to subscribe our channel, and we will post the recording soon on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everyone.